let's return to some of the wider lessons that we ought to learn from this. Some of the tweets I've already spoken to that, and you have also touched on it, that henceforth we should be mindful of the arbitration clauses and the kinds of agreements that we enter into. There is also a related issue here. Of course, this is more of the remit of your counterpart in foreign affairs and, say, national planning. It appears that Nigeria tends to enter into all manner of agreements. And do we have a refinery, for draft agreements for Nigeria to process and get to understand the implications before appending its signature? We saw what happened with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that took quite a while, because the President Buhari said, no, hold on a minute, let's know precisely what is in this. And he got all stakeholders, and once it was clear and that, look, we needed to shift our position and that we will be key beneficiaries from this, okay, proceed and sign. But there have been all kinds of concerns. I mean, 1995 or thereabout, Nigeria was one of the early signatories to the WTO agreement, World Trade Organization, and after a while we found that, that our economy was worse for it. What are we likely to do to ensure that, look, the kind of agreements we get into that also raise the issue of financial subscriptions and therefore obligations that can also be a leakage on our resources? What is going to be government's disposition to this?
You see, Kingsley, I think it all has to do with leadership. We have one of the finest lawyers in our Ministry of Justice and one of the most patriotic lawyers in our Ministry of Justice. But some of these decisions, most of them were actually political decisions. And it was not unusual to even see the Ministry of Justice overruled sometimes. Because people have political interest, they have economic selfish interest. Like you rightly pointed out, before we signed the African Continental, free trade, Mr. President ensured that all stakeholders were carried along. Many people were impatient. They were asking us, join the bandwagon, join the bandwagon. Now we have seen now that we were careful to ensure that we didn't rush into it so that it would not affect local manufacturers, it would not affect our local farmers, it would not affect our industries. And that's why we had very extensive consultations with industrialists, with farmers, and everybody. So that's why I believe it's really, really all about leadership. A leadership that is committed and patriotic will lead. Ministry of Justice and no server can only give technical and legal advice. But sometimes even when they give technical and legal advice and you have a bad political leadership, you end up in this kind of